All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Detroit Lions. Now, big time game coming up against Minnesota this Sunday, but I got a comment a couple of days ago on my last Lions video, and they were saying, we're winning out and we're winning the Super Bowl. Save this comment. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, very optimistic. I love it. I absolutely love it. We all know the Detroit Lions. To me, I'm just going to make this statement. The Detroit Lions have the best future in the entire National Football League. I really don't think it's that close, or I guess it's close, but Detroit there's levels to it, right? Detroit is just, they're set up for long-term success, all right? And I was doing some digging because they're 5-7 and they have the 23rd easiest strength of schedule remaining. After Minnesota, it's not technically easy. I know that the New York Jets are a playoff team. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL, but they also have their backup quarterback. They benched their starting quarterback. So you have the Jets, you have Carolina, you have Chicago, you have Green Bay. All 5 games are very winnable, okay? And sitting at 5-7, I 100% believe with the statement that if Detroit were to actually win out, they will make the playoffs. Now, today's video isn't about that, but I want to just hype it up a little bit because they should have beaten Minnesota in September. Like, they had it in the palm of their hands, right? They had it in the palm of their hands. Some mistakes, and we know Dan Campbell was not thrilled. He said it's actually going to haunt him till the day he dies. That's how you learn, though. That's how you learn life's most important lessons, is through failure, through getting embarrassed, stuff like that. So I feel very good. I know Minnesota is 9-0 in one-score games, but I feel very, very good about Detroit's chances this week. In fact, Vegas actually has them favored. But one last anecdote about making the playoffs. Washington and New York, who both have the 2 wild card spots along with Seattle, they have the second and third hardest strength of schedule for the rest of the season. Like, the Giants play the Eagles twice. They play Minnesota. They play Washington. Like, they have an extremely difficult schedule ahead of them, and I have zero faith in Daniel Jones. So I'm just saying. In fact, if you're a Lions fan, let me know. If you had to realistically, ESPN puts it at 8% chance to make the playoffs. I think it's more like 25%. I know that's optimistic, but if you're watching this video, drop a comment down right now. What do you think the Lions' chances are to make the playoffs this season? I know it's all speculative, and the focus isn't even necessarily on this season. It's more long-term, because if you weren't familiar, they have the Rams pick, and the Rams are currently the 4th worst team in the National Football League, and they are projected. ESPN actually projected them today to have this. It ended up being like the 2nd pick. That's where their projection comes in at, because the Rams, they're sitting at 3-9. They just picked up Baker Mayfield. I don't think that solves any of their issues. You have guys like Aaron Donald injury, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, et cetera, et cetera. Like, personally, I think the Rams' time of winning is long gone now, but they got the Super Bowl, so worth it. Before we actually get any further in this video, if you guys enjoy it, hit the like button, hit that sub button. Lions fans, you guys are awesome. I say it every single video because it rings true. Like, it is absolutely awesome. As a cheesehead, you guys are so nice about it. You guys are just amazing people. I loved living in Detroit. I was a younger kid, but I love visiting Detroit because I used to live in Chicago. So I have nothing but love for the Detroit Lions and Detroit sports in general. Like, Brad Holmes is a genius. Troy Weaver's a genius. I'll talk about it for an hour because Detroit sports are back. They are so back, baby. And shout out to those Red Wings too. All right. Now, Detroit has the 6th best offense in the National Football League. Defensively, we're talking about vast improvements, like vast improvements. We could go down the line here. They just have a lot of guys that I really like, whether it's right now or long term. Alex Anzalone, he is kind of leading the charge there defensively speaking, but you have a lot of nice pieces. Deshaun Elliott, Kirby Joseph, my Illinois, my U of I guy. He's a stud. He's top 10. I think he's the 7th ranked all-star cornerback right now. Jeff Aduka, he's an absolute stud. I meant safety. Jeff Aduka I think he's 9th in Pro Bowl voting. I might have just said all-star voting, Pro Bowl voting. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. But defensively, they just have a lot of nice pieces. Obviously, you have Aiden Hutchinson. It's crazy how he was selected number 2, and the first pick in the draft is getting pretty much no one's really talking about him actually at all. Aiden Hutchinson is a dog. He's got 6 sacks on the season. I know, defensive ends and just defense in general, like, you don't judge a book by the amount of sacks. You don't judge a defensive end by the number of sacks they have. It's a good kind of analytic to have, but with the eye test, the most important test, Aiden Hutchinson's a stud. He's an absolute stud. He's really smart. You saw it with his 2 interceptions in the last couple of weeks. Like, he's an extremely high IQ football player, And then you also have Justin Houston. I was talking about Justin Houston, the 6th round pick out of Jackson State. He's had 3 sacks in his first 2 NFL games. So he also is a very enticing player. So defensively, they're probably going to spend their first, I talk about this, they're probably going to spend their first 3 picks at least defensively. But offense, like, this is a team that's just ready to win next season if it doesn't happen this year, which, like, if Minnesota, this is just, once again, speculative. If Detroit, I want to say when Detroit beats Minnesota, but there's just something really special and interesting about this Minnesota team because it's usually, actually, their victories are usually not pretty. But like I said earlier, they're 9-0 in one-score games, so they're just finding ways to win. It's a complete culture shift, and it's been a crazy ride. I mean, they're 10-2, but I think Vegas is onto something here. Divisional games as well. Minnesota could be 12-0. The Lions could be 0-12. I mean, divisional games are just important, right? Everyone's going to play harder. So this team is ready to compete. And you heard it with Dan Campbell saying, I feel like we can compete with anybody. Jared Goff also today, he said, I feel like I'm having the best season of my career. And statistically, you might look at it, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's got just over 3,000 yards for a rating of 95.7. He is having a great season. He's absolutely having a great season. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. I made a comment on my last video saying he's a good, not great quarterback. And all I meant by that is, I guess it's the wrong word choice. To me, a great quarterback is like an undisputed Hall of Famer. Jared Goff is still an extremely young player in his prime right now. He's had a very successful career thus far, a very underrated successful career, and who knows, he easily could be a Hall of Famer if he sticks with Detroit. If Detroit and him are a long-term thing, I can definitely see the Lions making and winning a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. I could see it next year. All right? If they beat Minnesota, I will probably make the statement saying the Detroit Lions will make the playoffs. I'm just letting you guys know early. They have one of the best 1-2 punch duos in the running back, just in the whole league in general. I know DeAndre Swift has had his injuries not only this year, but in his career in general. He's still averaging 5.5 yards per rush. So he's doing a phenomenal job. It was great to see him last week just do a very excellent job against Jacksonville. The whole Lions team, they're building off of this momentum. I know that loss to Buffalo on Thanksgiving, it was just right in there. It was in the palm of their hands once again, or it was within the reach of their arm. They really had a great game against Jacksonville. It was one of the best games. It was the best game of the season for Detroit, but it was one of the most impressive all-around games just in football of the season in general. I know Jacksonville isn't, crazy quite yet, but they're also building something over there in Jacksonville. So Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift is your 1-2 punch. We'll see a little bit more Jameson Williams this week because he played just 8 snaps this last week. I agree with Dan Campbell. I get, first round pick out of Bama. He was a stud at Bama. I am excited for his career, but I don't need it to happen this year because the last thing I would want to happen is an injury or a tweak or just anything that would stop this momentum right now. When you tear your ACL, I actually don't even want to stay that same. I'm going to knock on wood anyways. I can imagine tearing your ACL is one of the worst things ever. So just get healthy. Get healthy, stay healthy. We'll talk about it next year because he's an X-Factor stud, but you obviously got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL already at this young point in his career. So there's a lot of things to be excited about, and to be quite honest with you, it's only Wednesday. I just cannot wait for that Vikings game. I just can't wait for it. If you're a football fan, you're going to love it. NFC North football, when it is December and they're meaningful games, there's just something special about it. I know you guys would agree. So hit that like button, hit that sub button. But once again, guys, go ahead, legitimately, what do you think the Lions' chance of making the playoffs is this year? I know I'm being overly optimistic, but it's just really cool to see right now. It's just very, very cool to see. Their defense has done a phenomenal job since the start of the season. They gave up like 35 points in their first 4 weeks on average. Like, they have done such a good job. So that's it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Let's try and get to 250 likes on today's video. And yeah, that's it for me today. I will see you guys probably tomorrow with another lines video.